Now this may come as a bit of a shock to some of you, but I have actually played quite a lot of Sea of Thieves in my time. So much so that I thought it would be appropriate to put Pro Pirate in my channel tag. However, my entire frame of reference for calling myself a Pro Pirate comes entirely from Sea of Thieves. This is because Sea of Thieves is the only pirate game that I've ever actually played. For this reason, I thought it might be fun for me as a Sea of Thieves player to try out other pirate games, with my only reference being thousands of hours in Sea of Thieves. So in today's video I will be playing 3 different pirate games, 2 of which are relatively small, and 1 of which is actually quite a large and popular game, and I've actually been laughed at because I said I haven't played it before. If you do enjoy the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, you know the drill, but without further ado, let's hop straight into the shitty intro, and then the video. The first of the 3 new pirate games that I tried out was a game called Blazing Sails. The game is described as a fast-paced pirate PvP game, and I have to say, it does live up to that name. I started off my playthrough of Blazing Sails in the obvious way by playing the tutorial, which does a pretty good job of getting you introduced to the mechanics, which are relatively simple. This was followed up by visiting something known as the shooting range, which allows you to test out all of the weapons in the game and practice with them. And I gotta say, my personal favorite weapon is one known as the fish launcher, which, actually, you know what, I think the name speaks for itself in this case. But after testing out and getting familiar with all of the weapons, I think it's time for me to hop into some real online matches. I decided to start with something known as the Galleon Conquest, as it had recommended for beginners in it, so I figured that's gotta be the place. I only ended up playing 1 of these matches, so I can't give too much information on the overall game mode, just on the specific match that I played. With that being said, the game I ended up playing was kind of a domination type game mode, where you hold a particular area of the map in order to gain points. Given that the lobby I was in was relatively small, it wasn't a particularly eventful game. However, the few interactions I did have with the enemy, I absolutely dusted them. And after hitting this shot, I came to a realization. Somehow, this game has better hit registration than Sea of Thieves. I do not know how that is even remotely possible, but every shot I hit, it said I hit, which was nuts. Kind of a culture shock, I guess, to Sea of Thieves players. After playing in that match for a bit, I quit and decided it was time for me to get into the bread and butter and the real selling point of Blazing Sails, their Battle Royale game mode. This game mode is exactly as you would imagine. It is supposed to be a 5-ship brawl, with each ship spawning at a designated location that you vote on at the start of each match. Once you spawn in, you loot up as the zone closes in around you, and you fight to the death. Last ship standing wins. The first match I played in was just 2 ships, so we vote on our spawn location and then get to looting. Thankfully, you get quite a lot of supplies very quickly in this game, so looting isn't a massive part of it, but the islands are actually pretty cool. After this, we set sail and we run into the other team pretty quickly. And I gotta say, I actually really enjoy the ship combat in this game. It feels similar to Sea of Thieves, but has its own unique characteristics, such as saving your ship when you sink. Instead of using a bucket, you use a water pump. And patching holes is kinda similar, I just think it actually looks better than Sea of Thieves. In this way, you just close up the hole instead of putting a big ugly plank over it. The close quarters combat is a bit buggy and a bit weird, but it does turn out to be pretty fun. And there's an additional function for sinking other ships, in that each ship has a giant cork in it. Like literally just this big cork that if you pull out, a ton of water rushes in, and if you don't cork it quick, it sinks your vessel, which is what ended up happening to us in this 4v4 game. I really like this game, actually. I think it's a pretty cool game. The Battle Royale mode is obviously really fun. The combat's pretty decent. The graphics aren't quite what Sea of Thieves are, and that's to be expected. And it does feel at least a decent amount copied from Sea of Thieves. But my big problem with this game is the player base, because there is none. Finding a game is nearly impossible. It took me a while just to get into another game after this, and that was only a 1v1, like literally one person versus one person, which doesn't quite have the same energy that a 5-ship battle royale would have. So, if I had to rank this game on a Sea of Thieves scale, let's say from a Ruby Splashtail to a Shadow Stormfish, I'm gonna give this a Forsaken Devilfish. I definitely had quite a lot of fun getting this, but it just could have been better, and there's definitely room for improvement. The second pirate game I decided that I wanted to play was a game called BattleWake. BattleWake is actually a VR game, and my first time filming in VR, so don't judge my childish behaviors too harshly. With that being said, once I loaded into the game, I was immediately confronted with this green floating skull. And I gotta say right off, the graphics in this game, especially in VR itself, are actually really cool and really good. I started off this game mode playing in the campaign, which immediately let me meet this little dude by the name of Diego. I then loaded into the first mission. I spent a little time getting my bearings and then decided to ring this bell, which I didn't know started the mission, but fuck it, we ball. The basic controls in this game were you had your wheel for slight turns, and then you had these two chains on either side of you. It turns out these chains were actually connected to the port and starboard anchors, pulling you hard port or hard starboard depending on which side you yanked on. The ship was obviously also equipped with a ton of weapons, ranging from old 1800s cannons on the sides to, well, fully automatic sentry guns on the front, which didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but you know what, whatever. To fire these weapons, you just had to point at what you were aiming at and pull the trigger, and it would shoot whichever weapon was able to shoot that target. I also learned that the NPCs in this game seem to have been based off of Sea of Thieves players again, because they seem to think the best strategy is the ram strat, which, to be fair, it is. This game also taught me how nice it must be to be a helm in Sea of Thieves, as all you have to do is stand on the helm, yell orders, and wait for everyone else to do the hard work. After practicing dodging mortars and sinking some more ships, I found out that I actually had something called an ultimate ability ready, and I'll let the footage speak for itself on what this does.
Whatever hopes our enemies have, they need abandoning.
Holy shit! What did I just do to that poor ship? I finished up this first campaign mission and then decided to do the second mission, which ended up being kind of the same, with the main difference being this one had one boss ship that you had to sink, which was essentially just a massive ship with a ton of health. I mean, who would have thought? Getting a little bit bored of the campaign mode, I decided to try out the Warfare mode. Warfare mode gives you that little bit of extra customization where you get to pick your own ship.
Make your choice soon, Captain.
Ow, that was the microphone. Warfare mode turned out to be just pretty much a giant horde of enemy ships coming at you with a final boss following it up. This final boss, however, also had access to certain unique and cool abilities that they could use against you, in my case, the Kraken. After I finished up this match defeating the final boss, and I won't lie, I almost died a few times during this, so this one was a bit of a challenge. I decided I should probably get off because I had just eaten pork chops before this, and I was feeling a bit sick because this game does definitely make you motion sick if you are sensitive to that. So here's my overall review of this game. For a VR pirate game, it's actually pretty good. The graphics on it, especially in VR, are actually really good. The combat is about as good as you could make it for a VR pirate game. And I do like the characters themselves and the general vibe of the game. Some of the problems I have with this game include the motion sickness you get while playing it, especially if you're sensitive to it, which I'm not particularly, but this game really does throw you off. While the combat mechanics were good, they felt really repetitive, and it was just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. As well as I've been told that the story is actually really short in this game. I didn't finish it because I didn't put too much time into this game, but it's supposed to be shorter than you would expect, and again, fairly repetitive all the way through. So if I had to rank this on the same scale from the Ruby Splashtail to the Shadow Stormfish, I'm gonna give this a, let's go with a Bronze Pondy, in the sense that it looks really nice on the outside. It's not that exciting when you actually play it, and you were kind of hoping for a little bit more. This brings us to the final pirate game I will be playing in this video, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And right off the top, this game is really freaking awesome. Like, I can definitely see why people were kind of surprised when I said I hadn't played this game before. This game has the most to play by far compared to all of the other pirate games that I've played. So I guess I'll start this by summarizing how my playthrough has gone so far. You start by getting a speech from Blackbeard himself, telling you how much of a badass your pirate is. So, you know, you should kind of take that hint of how incredible this story is gonna get. Followed up by the opening mission, which is pretty much just a tutorial for how to play the game. At the end of this tutorial, you end up killing one of the assassins from the Assassin's Creed, taking his uniform, and getting on a merchant ship to sail off and start your adventure. All of this takes place in an absolutely massive and beautiful open world where you can follow the main story, there's side quests, there's raids you can perform, and just a whole world of things to do in this game. And all of it is both unique and fun. This game obviously has a lot more of an Assassin's Creed feel to it than a pirate feel, though, I will say that, which, you know, makes sense, and it's an Assassin's Creed game, but a lot of the time is just doing main story missions that have nothing to do with being a pirate, and I honestly have no problem with that because the main story is still pretty awesome, it still keeps you engaged, it still keeps the story flowing, and your character is a pirate at his heart, so I guess it doesn't really matter if some of the missions aren't pirate related. Anyways, you don't get your ship and like your actual piratey stuff, I guess, until a bit into the game, but as for mechanics, the ship combat feels good. It's kind of similar to BattleWake, obviously in a 2D perspective, but it does feel a lot smoother and a lot more polished. Anyways, to kind of wrap this up, everything about this game is pretty awesome. It definitely offers a pirate experience that rivals that of Sea of Thieves, just in its own unique way. And if I'm gonna be honest with myself, this is the only game that I've played today that I'm gonna put any real time behind because it has hooked me in pretty well and I want to see where this story goes and how awesome this world can actually get. With that being said, if I had to rank this on the same scale we've been using from Ruby Splashtail to Shadow Stormfish, I'm gonna give it a Black Cloud Wrecker. Just as awesome as Sea of Thieves, but in a different way. But with that, that just about wraps up our video where a Sea of Thieves player tries out other pirate games. To briefly summarize, I definitely am going to be putting a lot more time into Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Blazing Sails is a game I would play with some friends, though I don't know how much of my own time I would put into that game if I didn't have a group to play with. And I probably won't be putting much time into BattleWake. It's just not my thing, but if you love VR games and pirate games, you should probably check it out, because it is a good game. Other than that though, I do appreciate you guys stopping by to check out this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Also feel free to comment other pirate games you think would be cool for me to check out in a potential future video. But other than that, it's been your boy Bandit Banks, and I will catch you all in the next one.